Well, the way Hubbard did his research, so far as we could see, was to scout around the islands and the coastline of the Mediterranean and see what it suggested to him, you see. He, I suppose, was supposed to have total recall of past lives. This past life thing goes right through Scientology. So it's a pretty important thing to establish, you know. And one incident which he described at the party following his return was that he had docked at Sardinia. And 2,000 years ago, according to him, he had been the commander of a fleet of war galleys in the Mediterranean. And he had had an affair with the priestess of the temple on Sardinia. And he used to make assignations with her by a secret tunnel into the temple. It was all beautiful Rider Haggard stuff. And, well, at the island, he made a little plasticine model of the secret entrance and sent his troops around to scout around for it. And there it was, lo and behold. There was a stone which resembled the model. And they thought, well, this is the entrance. And when Hubbard described this at the party, celebrating his return, you know, the whole room sort of erupted into cries of good old Ron and the whistles, you know. And I think I was the only one there, kind of skeleton at the banquet, you know, who thought, well, this is marvelous showmanship, but it doesn't prove a damn thing about past life.
Do you believe that you have lived before?
Now, to answer that question is be very unfair.
Scientologists believe they've lived before, though, don't they?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, it's quite interesting that exercises can be conducted which demonstrate conclusively that there are memories which exist prior to this life.
This is a drill. Fire on the food deck.
These are some of the faithful at fire drill, one of the few things we were able to film before they got angry. One crew member wrote a letter published in the ship's magazine.
My body was seen in the ship at a certain place, whereas at the very time it was being seen, I was discussing the very spot with another 3 Sea Organization members way away from where I was seen. After this, I received 3 letters from South Africa, the writers of which were glad having seen me and congratulated me on looking so well. My last time in South Africa was 1957. Recently, I went there 4 times bodiless to see my friend Chris Weideman. My body has not left Spain since it got here.
Not everybody on board was so fortunate. Nick Robinson.
For a long time I was noticing discrepancies between what Hubbard was claiming to be the abilities of his clears and OTs and what I knew were their abilities. I'd met several hundred of these clears and several OTs, which are the advanced students, and they just didn't have the abilities Hubbard said they had. He published some years ago that a clear would have a genius IQ, would have total recall, that is perfect memory, would have excellent health, high ethics, and will never have accidents by his own fault. Now, I found incidents to refute every single one of those claims. In fact, I never found a clear who lives up to the entire formula. So I thought if Hubbard could exaggerate here, well, other areas he could also exaggerate. I went down to Valencia to check out these OTs who were there en masse, and I wasn't impressed at all, so I left.
Those who stay provide Hubbard with an almost free crew. There are no professional sailors. He pays them just enough for cigarettes and sweets, but they pay him rather more. The new advanced courses cost something more than £1,000 plus keep, payable to an account in the name of Hubbard's present wife. If all 250 people have signed for these advanced courses, which according to Hubbard can be completed in weeks, days, and even hours, that makes over £250,000. The scrapers could be scraping for quite some time. They've been asked to sign a contract for 1 billion years.
You say that you have retired from Scientology. You're now on a very smart and splendid ship. Well, what are you doing on this ship?
I don't think the Labour government ought to know this because they don't approve of loafing, but I'm loafing.
What are you loafing on? On what proceeds? Where did you get all the money to loaf?
Well, one tends to overlook the fact that all during the 30s and actually during the late 40s, I was a highly successful writer, and that a great many properties and so on accumulated during that period of time.
Is that really where the money for all this comes from?
Yes, yes. One of the things...
It doesn't come from the Scientologists at St. Hill.
No, the Scientologists at St. Hill As a matter of fact, I wish I had the bill here to show you. But we added up over the years what monies I had loaned organizations and what monies of mine personally, royalties and so on, had been collected by Scientology organizations, and the amount of money paid out for research, and it amounts to $13 million. That's a fantastic sum of money.
Because the other thing that we hear about are things like Swiss bank accounts, the Pictet Bank, that kind of thing. And there's a great temptation to believe that your yacht and the standard of life to which you are now accustomed is paid for by Scientologists in England.
The amounts of money in Switzerland are minimal. Very small amount of money in Switzerland.
Why do you have Swiss bank accounts?
I don't have Swiss bank accounts. There is a bank account in Switzerland. I don't know how much money is in it, but not very much. The amount of money which comes to me at this time is mostly capital, because I don't take any income. These days, in days of income tax, it's almost impossible to take any income.
So your capital, that did come from the Scientologists?
No. No, the Scientologists and so on, actually, it's what I tell you is quite true.
Yes, but the only problem I have with that sum is you haven't told me where the money does come from, where the obviously very large sums of money that you have.
Well, there were very, very large sums of money that I made when I was very young. 15 million published words and a great many successful movies don't make nothing.
Hubbard's finances are almost impossible to unravel, but in the pre-boom days of Scientology, from 55 to 59, he and his immediate family got at least $154,971, plus a percentage, usually 10, of the gross income of all other Scientology organizations. If he still gets 10% from St. Hill alone, that's roughly £100,000 a year. And he doesn't deny selling his name to the organization for £100,000, but says he never got the money.
Well, people don't talk about how Hubbard gets his money. You know, they all assume that the handouts tell them that he used to be a millionaire himself before Scientology. And it's not an area which it's safe, really, to look into.
Hubbard claims that he is well out of Scientology. Was that your impression?
He really is in charge all the way. And he receives telexes every day from his organizations all over the world, especially St. Hill in England. And he sends telexes to St. Hill, gives them instructions and so on. So he really is involved.
Don't you wake up sometimes in the middle of the night and think to yourself, well, I've been on this ship with a whole lot of Scientologists who believe I'm fantastic. I've been here for a whole year and not seen anybody else, and I wish to hell I could go away from them.
Well, I haven't been here a whole year, you know. I've been out associating with Arabs and all kinds of people. And one of the ways you learn about life is to associate with people. And
But you don't. You only associate with Scientologists.
Perfectly happy to associate with anybody. The whole point about it is they don't believe I'm fantastic if you saw the number of times they don't follow my orders.
Well, they probably disobey his orders in the field because a lot of the crew so far have been completely incompetent. They haven't been able to obey his orders. In fact, we've had accidents and so on due to that. But on board the ship, he's a kind of Jesus Christ come Buddha, you know, all rolled into one. I mean, his busts and photographs are everywhere. He just is God.
You say that Scientology is a science. Now, it seems to me that Scientologists believe quite a lot of things which would be scientifically unacceptable, and that therefore Scientology isn't a science at all. It's a faith, like flying saucers are a faith.
A science is something which is constructed from truth on workable axioms. There are 55 axioms in Scientology which are very demonstrably true. And on these can be constructed a great deal.
But there are also a lot of things that aren't true.
Not necessarily aren't true, but aren't usual.
They found something that works, you know, in a kind of psychological wilderness elsewhere. And they've also been fired with a tremendous ambition, because there's nothing too ambitious for Scientology. They seriously hope to eventually take over the galaxy.